can only really do it as a labor of love, and it's something I really enjoy doing. I've been very involved in the venture community, both from an advising perspective, an investment perspective, and now jumping in again. The products that we're launching is basically saying, okay, we've collected a large amount of information from our connected fleet of vehicles. We have over 600,000 of these vehicles on the road running our hardware and software. Data science is very almost inextricably tied to product here. It actually rolls up to the product org within, like I report to the CPO at the org.
Hello, good morning. So today I have Raghu with us, who is a head of Motive at the product data science team. He's launching the company's first wave of data-driven products, including a drive safely SOAR, predictive maintenance alerts, and AI-powered flight load board. He works for a company that has grown a lot and is changing the way flight is moved throughout North America. Let's welcome Raghu on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, who is also a co-founder of a stealth startup of its own, which he will tell us about as well. Hi Raghu, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Good, thank you, Raghu. So, Raghu, can you tell us about your first startup first, and then we'll move on to your current role at Motive?
Sure. So the startup is still in stealth at the moment, so can't disclose too many details. But essentially, it's something I've been working on the side for the better part of a year and a half now, and it's focused on enabling individuals to build and leverage the data assets that companies have been collecting for the last several years. You know, people are talking about data as the new oil. They've been collecting this stuff, and now the question is, how do I effectively operationalize and leverage these data assets to power insights for my business? And despite there being a huge number of tools that make this easier, it's still a very slow and painful and often expensive process. So I'm trying to build a tool that greatly speeds up this leveraging of assets within your data landscape. So that's as much as I can say at the moment about it.
No, that definitely is helpful, and we completely understand and respect that you can't reveal too much, but it sounds amazing, and I hope it works out. My next question, Raghu, would be: so you are co-founded a business, but you're also working a full-time job at Motive. How do you make sure to manage and find the right balance? Like, do you work too much? Are you a workaholic? How has things been for you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that I really owe the uh, upper management at Motive, CEO and CPO in particular, for being very supportive of letting me try stuff on the side. I know other companies have more strict policies around this stuff, so they've definitely been very nice in helping us enable this exploration phase on my side. Um, yeah, it is very demanding for sure. It's really like having two, maybe even three jobs at the same time. So you can only really do it as a labor of love, and it's something I really enjoy doing. I've been very involved in the venture community, both from an advising perspective, an investment perspective, and now jumping in again as a second time founder perspective. So it's just a space I love and enjoy, and that makes it feel less like work and a bit more manageable. But definitely, there's days where I'm just like, oh man, I should really take a break.
No. I think the support from the upper management is specifically that's very important because I think a lot of companies are like, no, you need to invest all your time with us, but having that support from the upper level management just makes things much more easier because you can rely on them at the end of the day. And I spoke with this guest initially who said that it's the people that work with us and then learn from us and then start their own company is what makes us realize that we're doing something right at the end of the day. So it's great to see that companies like this exist who promote entrepreneurship, and you're doing this and you're finding like managing two to three jobs. So hats off to you, Raghu. When people find usually managing one job hard itself. So you're definitely doing something right. So thank you for sharing that. So my next question for you, Raghu, would be: you're launching a series of new products. Would love to understand what kind of products are going to be in the market, and what like are you looking to hire for your team specifically? Because I mean, of course, you're launching new products.
Yeah, and a few of those products around safety and freight have been launched recently, but they're going through lots of revamps. I would say in general, the trucking data space is quite underserved, and we've obviously rebranded now as Motive, formerly KeepTruckin. So we're branching quite far out from just pure compliance plays around trucking fundamentally. And so I think Motive's investment in these data products is evidence that we think that there's a large value prop in enabling AI and digital transformation within this space. And so the products that we're launching is basically saying, okay, we've collected a large amount of information from our connected fleet of vehicles. We have over 600,000 of these vehicles on the road running our hardware and software. Um, how can we take the data assets that we've collected from them over the last several years and build interesting products with it? And because we operate at such a large scale, we can build products and experiences and use AI at a level, at the petabyte level in particular, which competitors can't. And so the models that we build for things like driver safety or fuel or freight, we generally tend to acquire patents for these models because we like to stay at the cutting edge of these industries. And we think that this is a great way to maintain a differentiating edge in the marketplace when it comes to like data products generally, and especially in the telematics and fleet management space.
No, no, I think you need to always keep up to date with the trends just because if you don't, some other company will, and you will lose your competitive advantage. So your company is definitely taking on a lot of cool projects. And considering you're the head, Raghu, I would love to understand what kind of people would you be willing to hire within your team? Like there are certain characteristics that merge well within a team. So what are some of the characteristics that you look for in candidates when they're applying for jobs within your
Yeah,
team
we've been
specifically?
hiring fairly aggressively. The company at our previous fundraising round, which was our Series E, was growing over 70% year on year. And that's a growth rate we've more or less maintained. And to fuel that, obviously, we're trying to add as many people as reasonable, given the macro situation recently. Um, but I would say that the characteristics of a successful hire, at least on the data science org, which is the one I run, is really like strong analytical backgrounds and theoretical background is, I think, something that we can't ignore. Like I know that there's quite a few people that did think that data science has become somewhat commoditized. I'm just able to grab some tools online or copy some tutorials. But generally, when you work at the scale and complexity that we do, these are not going to be sufficient. So a deep understanding of the materials and the models and how they work is really important and something we look for and something our interview process really forces candidates to grapple with. And we think that that has produced a very high quality team thus far, and we intend to keep it that way. Um, but yeah, we're hiring fairly aggressively for safety and for our very recently announced fintech product in the cards space. So it's a fleet card where fleets can charge things like fuel and other expenses on top of it. I'm sort of very happy about this. It launched very recently and is doing phenomenally well. And so we're looking, for instance, for a staff data scientist, someone with lots of experience, ideally in things like fraud or credit risk, to be able to come on and help augment that feature capability because it's a very new one and a very exciting and fast growing one within the company. So we look for these kinds of very specific domain expertise roles increasingly, but we're still definitely hiring for general data science, levels from someone a couple years out of college all the way up to a staff data scientist. We do have openings available. And I should stress we do have that both in the U.S.
Okay.
and in India, where we're also growing a team.
Okay. Yeah, I know KeepTruckin is known for their global offshoring, so that's definitely amazing because I think talent should not be restricted just because of geographical boundaries. I think globalization, the pandemic definitely did see that people can work wherever they want to. So it's definitely great to see that a company that's fast growing understands that global talent is something that helps in growth. So thank you for sharing that. Last question, Raghu, you touched upon the hiring process, which allowed you to find ideal candidates. Would love to understand what your hiring process looks
Yeah.
like within your company.
So assuming they go through the normal funnel, so not like a referral, then there's generally, at least again, speaking from the data science team perspective, um, there's a coding screen to assess basic knowledge of the languages we leverage within the org, primarily Python. Um, and then there's a hiring manager round where we just assess capabilities and interests at a high level. And then we would then, assuming those two go well, we then bring folks for an on-site or what used to be an on-site. Now it's all um, virtual on-site. And there's quite a few rounds there. We test, machine learning theory, coding practice, and product fit. So data science is very almost inextricably tied to product here. It actually rolls up to the product org within, like I report to the CPO at the org. And so we're very very product oriented, not and we want to make sure that data is very tied to that. Like any data projects we do have very strict findings and interfacing with products. We have a round that assesses people's understanding of that as well to a reasonable extent for an outsider. Obviously, we wouldn't expect someone to be an expert on trucking products or anything like that out of the box. But that's a good summary, I would say, of the rounds that we have. And as I've said thus far, it's produced a very strong talent pool.
No, no, I love that. I think it takes a very holistic overview. So making sure that you find all the hard skills and soft skills that would be required by the job, because at the end of the day, you do not want to compromise on the quality of the candidates just because your company is growing and it's growing fast. So you don't want to add a bad candidate specifically to the team that might not perform so well amongst other high performance. So thank you for sharing that, Raghu. So Raghu, our time is up. It was an absolute pleasure learning about you, your stealth startup, which I hope it continues to make a difference, and how you're going and growing fast at your current company. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for
Thank you so
having
much
me.
for coming
Really
on the show.
had a great time chatting.